Can we get some musical accompaniment here, Sam? Can we get a little mood music, if you will, to pass along these National Football Conference Power Rankings Week 8 during the bye?
Great music.
Well, I mean, I could talk
prime time. I
could talk about like shopping at department stores with this music, like something I hate. Like, right? Absolutely. Man, you walk through like the makeup counter at Nordstrom.
Helping people move.
It's the worst place on earth. But if I had AirPods and this music in, I would treat it like I was a running back making my way through all these people with their eyeliner.
I'm like, it's like, to me, it takes me back to draft day. You know, because, I mean, seriously, this is what they play in the background as they're playing the highlights.
Yep, so good. So what everyone's going to be looking for is where do you put the 49ers? Can we go top 7 in the NFC?
Sure.
And we'll go bottom up, okay? Should we start at 7 and work our way to 1? All right.
That's going to take a little coordination.
All right, but you want to do 1 to 7? Let's go 1 to 7.
We can do it.
All right, we'll go 1 to 7. That's going to be easier, especially because number 1 is obvious, right? Number 1 is the Philadelphia Eagles. Are we in agreement there?
Has to be the Eagles, especially with Robert Quinn. They got great play on both sides of the line of scrimmage. To me, the quality move that they made was Chauncey Gardner-Johnson getting the nickel back from the Saints at the end of the preseason. Stud. Awesome player, and he's made all the difference.
I'm not a Nickelback guy, but I'll agree with your breakdown that the Eagles are the number 1 team and did get better.
Number 1.
We'll see them tomorrow night. All right, number 2.
Number 2.
Go ahead. Who's your number 2?
I'm going to go with the 49ers. Because I don't believe in the Dallas Cowboys. Everybody else, the Vikings, I'm not sure about, but I really don't believe in the Cowboys. And Kirk Cousins has not won big games. Sean referenced it. He doesn't win playoff games, doesn't win big games. Had that Monday nighter against the Eagles. They fell on their face. He looked like he was a deer in the headlights. So I'm going to go Niners, too, in the NFC.
This is going to sound like a true Bay Area sports radio station because I also have the 49ers at number 2. But I think it's totally fair. Yeah, maybe we wouldn't have said it a week ago. But you know what they didn't have a week ago? Christian McCaffrey.
Right.
They didn't have when it comes to a week ago. So I think McCaffrey on this team, the idea that after the bye you're going to get the likes of a Deebo Samuel and a Kyle Juszczyk back, and as you've said, the interior of the defensive line, from a talent perspective, why would you not have the San Francisco 49ers ahead of Dallas and Minnesota, who do still have some warts? That said, let's go to number 3. Where do you put those two teams? I've got the Dallas Cowboys at number 3.
Number 3.
Simply because of defense. This is the next best defense in the NFC. It might be the best defense in the NFC. Hell, Ezekiel Elliott being out might help them. It might help them see who their best running back is. Tony Pollard with 3 touchdowns last week when he was given the bell cow role. I don't think the Cowboys scare me too much if I'm the 49ers, but I do think that's the next best team in the NFC right now.
I'm not going Dallas. I don't believe in Dallas. Dallas has a really good rush. I think their secondary can be picked on. I'm not crazy about their linebacking core. I like Seattle. I like Seattle
at
as
number
3. Yeah, I do. I like Seattle. Why? Because Kenneth Walker III's an impact guy. They've got 2 rookie tackles. They're both playing great. Pete's obviously a veteran coach, and they've got a lot of guys who have played a lot of winning football there. Geno's playing at a really high level. They've added both the Thorpe Award winner Kobe Bryant and this freak of nature 6'4" Tariq Woolen out of University of Texas San Antonio, who's a 6'4" corner, and they look great. They look absolutely great. Boye Mafe off the edge. John Schneider's rookie class is fueling this Seahawk run. Seahawks may wind up a playoff team and what could have the first pick in the draft. I like Seattle. I think they're playing well. I think they're legit.
It's fascinating. Just remember this, everyone. If you don't like our opinions now, tune in again next week. They'll change.
Right.
We all thought Seattle was tanking, and now you're sitting here putting them at number 3.
I got them number 3.
In the NFC Power Rankings. I've got them further down the list. We'll get to them in a second. I am going to give the Vikings number 4.
Number 4.
Thank you very much. The Minnesota Vikings will be number 4. I'm going to agree with your point about where they're weak. Until Kirk Cousins does something different at night or in a big game, I'm not going to get too worried about them, but they do have a lot of weapons at their disposal. They scare you on offense. They are, capable on defense. They're capable on defense. There have been too many games for the Vikings for me to put them in the top 3 where they've had to, work their way through winning a tight one against teams of no business being on the field against them. I'm looking at 3 weeks ago's Chicago Bears being in a 1-score game in Minnesota late. I'm looking at a 3-point home win over the Saints. I'm looking for having to rally with 2 touchdowns in the final 3 minutes to beat Detroit at home. Even their game against the Cardinals, they couldn't shake them last week. Their schedule's been light. Their one big test was at Philadelphia, and they got crushed. But 6-1 is 6-1, so I'm going to put the Vikings at number 4.
Yeah, I like the Vikings at number 4, too. Harrison Phillips, the former Stanford interior defensive tackles, on their front now. They can rush the passer with Daniil Hunter and Zardarius Smith, but the real improvement is on the back end. They got the former Cal Bear Cam Bynum. Patrick Peterson comes over in free agency. Cam Dantzler's gotten better. So I like Minnesota, but because of Cousins' lack of big game wins, I got them 4th. But I do feel good about them. So there they are.
Are you giving the Cowboys the 5 hole?
I'm giving Dallas the 5 hole.
Okay,
yep.
So you and I just flipped Seattle and Dallas because I've got Seattle in my 5 hole. You have to be impressed with what they've done, but I'm not going to forget what they did look like just a few weeks ago. I think they're getting better, and that's great. But it's also a team that did come to Levi Stadium and not score. So I want Geno Smith. This is a nice story, but is Geno Smith going to win playoff games against high-level defenses? I think that they will struggle if it gets to that point and when it gets to that point.
I got Dallas in the 5 hole because I don't think Dallas can stop the run. Seriously, I think Dallas is going to struggle to stop the run. They just picked up Hankins. If Dallas can get a lead, they've got edge rushers, right? Micah Parsons, DeMarcus Lawrence. They can put heat on Dorrance Armstrong. They can put heat on the quarterback. But if you can commit to the run game, I think you can run it down their throat the way the Niners did last year in the playoffs. I like Dallas 5th in the NFC.
Do you know what I like about doing power rankings with you?
What's that?
I learned the names of all the players I've never heard of before. It's really fun. It's so fun. I'm like, Dallas, let's talk about Dak Prescott and Tony Pollard. And you're like, this guy Bob, who's their linebacker, he was drafted out of Iowa in the 3rd round, and he's really overperforming. Like, I got no idea what the hell you're talking about, but I'm sure that you know what you're talking about.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Next, at number 6, I guess you have to put the New York Giants there, just out of respect. But I'm not that much of a believer. If you go into the data, I'm a believer that the culture has been changed. Both New York teams. Put the Jets in there as well. Robert Saleh has done a very nice job. The culture has changed. They're believing in themselves, but they are too talent deficient when it's going to become to big games. And if you look at the New York Giants, I mean, they have had so many things go their way in the final 6 minutes of football games. It's like they trail every week, and then something funky happens and they win. And I had a feeling that they would lose by double digits when they got to Seattle last week, and they did. So that one was a comeuppance to me. But they're the next best thing that the NFC has to offer, so I'm going Giants at 6.
Giants are interesting. I love the rookie receiver they have, Wan'Dale Robinson. But come on, I mean, no, I'm putting Atlanta. Atlanta to me is looking really, really good. They're leading their division. They got a good head coach. Marcus Mariota's playing the best football I've ever seen him play. They don't have a great running attack, but man, Drake London and Kyle Pitts in the red zone, one of the NFL's better offensive lines. Grady Jarrett on the defensive tackle spot. I like Atlanta. They added Rashad Fenton, a trade from Kansas City. They're deeper in the secondary. I like Atlanta. I think Atlanta is actually kind of a scary team.
Yeah, out of A.J. Terrell getting hurt a couple of weeks ago. I mean, Carolina ran roughshod over this team offensively.
Yeah.
And Deontay Foreman looked like shoot, I mean, it looked like Barry Sanders out there last week. So I'm not a terrible believer in Atlanta. In fact, so much so that I got to number 7, and I'm like, okay, who are we going to get? There's nobody with a winning record that I can stick in here. Atlanta's 500, so I could do that. I'm still going to put at number 7 the Green Bay Packers. I know it's gone sideways, but it's still Aaron Rodgers, and if you look at the schedule the last couple of weeks, it makes some sense. They showed a little fight there against Buffalo. Rodgers even came out and said that was the first time we were ready to play. They're not good enough to win in Buffalo on Sunday night, but is it a team that could be a different group come January if they can scratch out that last wild card spot? They would still scare me more than anybody else, put it that way.
All right, I'm going with the New Orleans Saints as the 7 hole because
Got the Saints ahead of the 6-2 Giants.
I don't believe in the Giants at all.
Okay.
I mean, I seriously,
All right.
I think the Giants are living right. I mean, you still at the end of the day, you look up, there's still Daniel Jones, and they have no receivers. They just traded Kadarius Toney. I mean, Galladay's nowhere close to the player that he was.
Galladay's gone.
Yeah, but you look at New Orleans. New Orleans Raiders didn't even cross midfield until the 2-minute warning of their game. They got shut out.
That's true.
Dalton I don't love. Obviously, but they still have Taysom Hill and they got Winston there. But look at this team. You got Alvin Kamara. You got a pretty good offensive line. And then on defense, Cam Jordan, David Onyemata up front, big-time player. Demario Davis, a big-time player. And on the back end, you got Marshawn Lattimore, Paulson Adebo, the former Stanford corner. I think New Orleans, on the strength of their defense, is in the 7 hole over the Giants.
We both got the 49ers sitting at number 2, which is so funny because 4 days ago we're like, the season's on the brink. Now we've got him as the 2 seed in the NFC. That's the effect of Christian McCaffrey. Okay, you can turn the stuff down now, Sam.
And they got a ton of players coming back. I mean, the
they do.
49ers have...
They got the roster,
They
man.
got the roster. They got about half of a championship football team that should come back to the lineup in the next month. So they should, and the schedule's very favorable. You looked at their schedule at the beginning of the year when we were sitting doing a show in August. They don't go anywhere.
They go anywhere.
They go to Arizona. They go to Mexico.
They go to Mexico. They go to Seattle, and they go to Vegas.
Seattle and Vegas. That's it.
Yeah, they are not leaving. They're not going to have to deal with body clocks, and they've got a ton of home games, and they've been low-key really, really good at Levi's Stadium. Let's put Patrick Mahomes aside. Other than that, they've played really well at Levi's Stadium, and some of the games that looked really tough aren't going to be as tough as maybe you thought, like Tom Brady coming in on December 11th. Nowhere near as scary as that was thought to be at the beginning of the year.